what specifically, as far as positions that Napier has hired at Florida, do you think might be sort of game changing or be something that people model? Because like we make fun of the whole, or at least we did on Cover 3, that the game changer coordinator title, which is just special teams coordinator. I mean, you can call it what you want, but what is he doing behind the scenes that you like a lot?
Yeah, I think we've started to see this around the country more. So listen, I want to give credit to Florida, but I also know that there are a lot of other programs doing this, and I think that's what we talked about earlier. I think there's going to be this embrace of a two-pronged system on the evaluation side, splitting up those departments between high school and college. So they right now, what they have is somebody overseeing the high school side of the evaluation process, somebody overseeing the collegiate side of the evaluation process. And it's not just two people, but a full-time staff and a full-time player personnel department. And what I think is, and what I've always thought, and being in one of these roles is, you want to give the head coach a mouthpiece in every single bucket of your organization. So if it's player personnel, if it's on-campus recruiting, if it's analytics, roster management, if it's player retentions, alumni affair, NIL, there has to be somebody. That's where we are in terms of collegiate athletics, especially in college football. There has to be somebody to oversee all those intricacies of that department and that organization off the field. And there's a lot. And I think he spearheaded that. And I think in return, what that does, it takes so much off of the responsibility of the head coach and of your full-time 10 assistants. And I think at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want to put your head coach and your assistant coaching staff in the best position to succeed. And how do you do that? It's by letting them do their job. And what is their job? Having that clearly defined and what their roles are. So not only the talent acquisition side of it, but the player development side of it as well. So I think they've done a phenomenal job. I don't know if, it seems like they've hired so many people. It's hard for me to keep up with. Like the first wave was like, oh,
Right.
okay, great, like awesome. Look at Florida expanding. The second wave was like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that title. The third wave is like, hey, I don't know if they actually had a vision for this guy or they just had the money to go hire him. You know what I'm saying? So it would be interesting to see how that plays out. But for Florida in particular, like I said, the only thing that matters is if you're going to have $7.5 million in support staff salary pool, that has to correlate, and that has to correlate quickly. And it's like you said, like they're in the arena with Georgia and Alabama, so they
Yeah.
know what it looks like. So this OKG philosophy in terms of us being card counters, and maybe we're seeing something different that nobody else is seeing. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe two or three of those guys in your class, maybe you identify as guys that are something that you can develop that nobody else saw. The rest is you have a microscope on you, and everybody knows what you need to win. And you can't bring a spoon to a gunfight. That's just not the way it works. So, that's who they're in competition with. Georgia, they're the new national champ. They're on their side of the conference. That's what Billy Napier is going to have to deal with is Kirby Smart. And, for him, he's been there. He's worked with Kirby Smart. He knows what it looks like. So kudos to him for getting the things that he needs, that he feels that they have to do to be successful at a championship level.
For sure. And, I ran into some guys at the convention, and you mentioned the frustration about all the changing rules and landscape of the sport. One thing, and mentioned having an NIL coordinator, right? And this is not UF specific, but different states have different laws because the NCAA didn't come up with something as the schools. I mean, we say the NCAA, but the NCAA is the schools who vote on this kind of stuff because they didn't come up with an actual legislative process for NIL, and they punted it to Congress, and Congress is like, we got bigger stuff. We're not messing with this right now. All the states passed different laws, and in some states, Florida being one of them, they're much more restrictive. Now they're working to change this law, and we'll probably get it changed in this legislative session after seeing the impact of it in 1 year. But if you're a coach at a school in Florida, or there's a lot of other states like this, I believe Nevada is also one, you're not allowed to actually discuss, like I can't go to a business and say, you know what, I think like this player would be a good fit for your business, right? You can't even talk about like how to get NIL deals for some of your guys. Or if you're a support person, you're not supposed to. And that actually, I will say, matters. I was talking with a coach in a state where you are allowed somewhat to do this. And he was like, look, the thing is, not every kid wants NIL immediately. And some families are going to take offense if you just start, like, if you have your boosters or whoever's running NIL just go rogue and be like, hey, NIL, recruiting wise, right? Like, now some kids, it's very clear, hey, we're going to have to give the dad a job under the table. We're going to have to move the family, and we're going to have to give them, 50K a year. Okay, like, start on that right now. Other kids, they don't want that right then, and some families might take offense to that. So that's just kind of another example. If you have an NIL coordinator, maybe that person can be working with the coaching staffs. Hey, we've had this kid on a visit for a junior day. Now, what's our read on the family? How are we going to get this player? What's our marketing plan for him? Having all that staff is absolutely can be, if you can coordinate it right, if you have the right type of CEO, which I guess we'll see if Napier can be. He certainly was very picky about the jobs he took. He turned down Auburn, most notably in the last hiring cycle, probably because they had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there that maybe wouldn't want to work for at the time. If Napier can be a good CEO and can manage all this new staff effectively, there's no real reason that they can't compete with the Georgia or Alabama. We've seen it under Spurrier, and we've also seen it under Urban Meyer. Like, Florida fans and boosters, they know what it looks like when Florida is running well, as you said, and they also know what it looks like when it's not, or when it's fakery. Like winning the East under McElwain when the East was kind of down, and then you would go face a legitimate playoff team like Alabama and get smoked.
Right.
Yeah. We got a lot of mileage out of this topic, man. This has been good.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it is something that I think it's, like I said, I think Florida and what Billy Napier's done there in a short amount of time in terms of being able to expand his staff. Like I said, I think a lot of teams and administrations throughout the country are looking at them and maybe not going to be able, certainly not going to be able to scale up to $7.5 million in support staff salary pool. But are looking at aspects of what they're doing. And I think Florida, Georgia, Alabama, you look at Ohio State, obviously they have a proven recipe as well. But these schools serve really as the example to the rest of college football. And as they move, the rest of college football follows. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what the ripple effects of everything that they're doing, the cause and effect of that for everybody else.